Whenever starting something new, such as music, sports, drawing, or anything at all, you will garner criticism from people whether you ask for it or not. That is why showing off a piece of art or just something that you're proud of is such a hard thing to do. This is where I want to talk about Bocchi the Rock and the way two characters in the show represent this important aspect and gave Bocchi the courage to change and move forward. So first, let me give you an overview of Bocchi the Rock before jumping into it. So if you never watched Bocchi the Rock, go watch it first, please. I promise you will like it. Second, it's about this girl who spent 3 long years practicing guitar in order to make friends in middle school, but never got the chance to do it. So in high school, she wants that to change and form a band. But the thing is that she has extreme social anxiety preventing her from doing so. So that's the gist of Bocchi the Rock. So if you watch the show, you might be thinking that I'm going to be talking about the band members themselves, or maybe our favorite drunk bassist, Kikari, which they did make a gigantic impact on Bocchi's character. But I believe some of the most important characters to her arc are ones that you don't necessarily think of as that important. The two characters that I think that made the most impact on Bocchi's character that most people don't talk about are her very first 2 fans. So let's talk about each of their appearances and the importance behind them, beginning with their introduction to the anime. To set the scene for you, Bocchi was about to perform her very first ever solo live on the street. She was terrified out of her mind, closing her eyes thinking that everyone was laughing at her. While playing, the darkness of her own self-criticism was closing in on her, choking out her confidence and making her unable to play at her full potential. But a single word broke through the veil. The single word coming from these 2 girls, cheering her on. Those simple words brought Bocchi back to reality, allowing her to open her eyes and see the truth. Seeing people just listening and enjoying her music, seeing that there wasn't nothing to be afraid of. This gave Bocchi the courage to play at her best and allowed the light from within inside her to shine through. The 2 girls went up to Bocchi and bought tickets, despite it being the very first time ever seeing Bocchi play. This completely fried Bocchi's brain, as she wasn't expecting anyone to like her music, let alone buy tickets to her show. These 2 showed Bocchi that there was nothing to fear while performing, allowing her to let go of her anxiety and perform the best she could. They showed that there are people out there that will support and lift her up, even if she doesn't believe in herself. So let's talk about their next appearance, supporting not only Bocchi through the dark, but the entire band when no one else would. The second time we see them is at the band's very first concert during the typhoon. The band was anxious and nervous, almost as anxious as Bocchi on a normal day. The reason was none of their friends or family would be able to make it to their very first official concert as a band. This dampened all of their moods, as they were excited to play for all their friends and family. This affected Bocchi heavily, as she was finally feeling hopeful about her dreams, and they were just crushed because of the weather. Except for one fact. Out of nowhere, these 2 goats fought mother freaking nature to come see Bocchi perform live. That just brings a tear to my eye. So these 2 goats are really the only audience members for the gang. There are other audience members, but they're for other bands and don't really care for them. Some of the audience members even say out loud that they don't care for them and wants them to just get it over with. So this affects them heavily. So once the band starts playing, they're unable to play to their full potential, but you know who's there just rocking it out? The 2 fans of Bocchi. The 2 fans! And when Bocchi realized that the band wasn't playing to its full potential, she was about to give up and just call it quits. But at that moment, she remembered what she was playing for. She remembered her solo live on the street, the emotions she felt, and most importantly, the 2 fans that came out in the storm to see them play. This revived Bocchi's motivation and gave Bocchi the push she needed to break the darkness. She said frick it and Bocchi'd everywhere, and my gosh, she Bocchi'd everywhere. That intro, that guitar solo was something that sent pure shivers down my spine. And to think that this might not have happened if it wasn't for the 2 goats being there to support Bocchi and the band in their time of need. And after the concert, the 2 fans were just fangirling over Bocchi just like I was. People say Bocchi is me for real, but those fans are me for real. I am one of them. I would have been fangirling so hard if I got to see Bocchi and the gang perform live. My god, a man can dream. Actually, Keisoku Ben is having a live tour in Japan at the moment. So if you're in Japan currently, when this video comes out, please go to it. Tell me how it is. I just need to know how it was. I'm desperate for more Bocchi, man. I'm still waiting for your season 2 at this point. Anyway, back to the video. Now let's talk about their last appearance in the show. To give some context on why their appearance at the festival is such a major thing to Bocchi, I have to explain Bocchi's dream and, more importantly, her fears of playing at the festival. So ever since Bocchi was in middle school, she always had the dream of playing at her school festival on stage. This dream she held for 3 long years, till finally, after finding her band, she was able to have the courage. No, she still didn't have the courage to go on stage. Kita basically had to forcefully submit the form for Bocchi, which, I mean, is kind of selfish, but I mean, it worked out in the end, and Bocchi wanted to go on stage, so I guess it's all good. Leading up to the fateful day, Bocchi was just fearing that once she stood on stage, no one would be there to cheer her on. She assumed that Kita and the rest would get the attention, which did happen. Besides for one fact, the 2 goats appeared there again! They were there to cheer on Bocchi and break Bocchi's fear of playing on stage. They were there to support Bocchi in the most important event of her life so far. They broke the anxiety that Bocchi had about having no one to cheer her on. Once Bocchi finished her sick guitar solo using Kikuri's empty sake bottle, which I will do a video on why that was an important moment as well, Bocchi looks out to the crowd, taking in the energy, the smiles, the cheering, and the very first people that come into focus for Bocchi is her 2 fans. This is such a beautiful moment because it just shows how important these 2 are to Bocchi. Out of all the people in the crowd, including her classmates and family, she looked at the 2 people who gave her the courage to play on stage, the people who broke through her anxieties, and the ones who truly love her music and art for what it is. These 2 made Bocchi's goal of having people go crazy for her music a reality just by simply being there. These 2 goats were there through it all, supporting her through her toughest challenges of playing on her first solo live, her very first concert, and now the biggest challenge of Bocchi, the school festival. These 2 were there to support Bocchi through it all and be there for her. And hey, who could say that they watched their idol faceplant to the floor after a sick guitar solo? Now that should be cherished for all of time, honestly. I would love to see that. To wrap up this video, having people who enjoy the work and effort you put into a piece is something magical. This doesn't mean that the sole purpose of your art should be geared towards others, but the fact that there are people who genuinely like your art for what it is just genuinely a nice feeling. Being able to share your work and have people appreciate it is such an important factor while creating art or anything in general. The act of wanting to share your interests and hobbies as people is just at the core of human connection. For me, showing people my work is a high motivator for improvement. I could use this channel as an example as I try to improve upon each video, but I think a better example of this is my art. So it was the beginning of my senior year of high school, and fresh out of the COVID pandemic. I used to draw, but I had no motivation for drawing anymore, as I didn't see a point in continuing. One day, I had a sudden urge to draw and drew something but thought nothing of it, just a splurge in the moment. This was when a random person just appeared from the side of me, saying just how good the drawing was. And I've never really received a compliment on my art at that point. I really didn't know how to react to it, so I just thanked them for the compliment, and I felt this kind of joy from having someone like my art. It gave me that push to better myself at drawing. I started to practice drawing almost every single day, or anytime I had free time, honestly. I improved a lot in that time span, and if it wasn't for that random compliment, I wouldn't have continued drawing at all. I know it's not going to look good, but here. This is from the beginning of my senior year of high school, and this is the end of the senior year. Having a person genuinely like my art and compliment me on it was such a good moment for me. It gave me the motivation to continue to draw and improve my art by a wide margin. This is why I personally think the 2 fans of Bocchi were some of the most important characters to her character arc. Even though they might not get talked about too often, they were there in some of Bocchi's toughest times and gave her the courage to push through them. Trying your darnest to create the best piece of work you can is hard because you not only have others who doubt your work, but one of the biggest obstacles is possibly your own self-criticism. The thought of being surrounded by all sides with criticism makes realizing your true potential difficult, but having someone genuinely care for your work and enjoy it reassures that you are good enough, that your work is appreciated. Even if it is just a single person, it makes all that work and effort worth it. So, this is Redacted Weeb signing out. Till next time, I'll see you all in the next video. Matane.